And for Mom, who we taught how to speak English.
True that.
So, her learning to speak English.
Yeah, very hard.
From her children. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's
hey.
had a few interesting words, right?
But she's came a long way.
Yes, she has.
A very long way.
Yes.
I'll tell you. Hey, what's up and welcome to the Half Korean Experience. Today I have my brother, Nick. Alright, so you guys keep hearing about him. You met his wife, you met his daughter. Well, he is finally here.
Finally.
Finally. Alright? So we've been preparing this and kind of talking about it and discussing it. But I finally dragged him over here by the ear and bribed him with Korean food. No. He's a very busy man, so just getting him here is a task in itself, which I totally understand from one who doesn't really have a job. So, all right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to do a mukbang. Okay, so what we have today, Nick, I'm going to kind of introduce it, and then you can start kind of, well, we can eat all these kind of on our bowls, but I made some spicy pork. All right, so this is pork that has kind of like a gochujang marinade and that kind of thing. So if you want to just dig in, you go for it. I made kimchi pancake. Here we have some gim, all right, which is seaweed. Okay, and one of my absolute favorite things, lettuce wraps. Okay, so this is kind of like a samgyeopsal, which is like pork and lettuce wraps, and then you just like eat it. So no pretty eating here today.
Right.
And we both have like orthodontics, so it's going to be interesting. Yes. Also, what we have here is we have radish kimchi. We have Napa cabbage kimchi, and then I made some cuttlefish, which is like a cuttlefish and gochujang sauce. So it's like a stir-fried cuttlefish. All right, I think that's it. Oh, and we have our Korean tea.
Yes.
Okay, we have our Korean tea. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mouth. I love that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It like cleans your palate so well, you know. All right, and we got our water.
Of course.
All right.
Essential.
Nicholas Wayne.
Yes.
You know, I remember there was a time when you told people your middle name was William. You remember that?
Yeah.
We were like in elementary school.
I know.
So
for whatever reason. I don't know why. Yeah. I know.
You just didn't like Wayne?
Actually, yeah, I think I do remember. I think I had a friend. And for whatever weird reason, I think he had a middle name that was William.
Ah.
So I thought, oh yeah, I want mine to be William too. And it still started with a W.
Okay, it just sounded better. I
forgot about that. But yeah, I do remember that.
I just thought of that. And so when I was in elementary school, I would tell everyone that my middle name was Red. Did you know that?
No.
Because the way that my mom said it in her accent, it sounded like she called me Aaron Red. So
I could see that.
I thought I had the coolest middle name because it was a color. I remember that. Oh my gosh. She said, Eden Red. Because my, Erin, she said Eden, right? She can never get the R.
Yeah.
And then,
which I still call you today, Eden.
Yes, that's my nickname still to this day.
Yeah.
People call me Eden because of my mom.
Yeah.
And then, with her accent, it was Red. I don't even know. But it wasn't Ray. It's Ray.
Right.
Which I can imagine for Koreans that would be a hard middle name to say. Even Aaron is hard.
Right. And for Mom, who we taught how to speak English.
True that.
So, her learning to speak English.
Yeah, very hard.
From her children. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's
hey.
had a few interesting words, right?
But she's came a long way.
Yes, she has.
A very long way.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, now,
yes.
She still definitely has an accent, but it's definitely not what it used to be. I think most people understand her. I don't think anyone gives us the look like, can you please translate her English?
Right.
All right, I'm going to get a bite because I want to try this. Let's see how we did here.
Pork is so good.
That is good. So for our best friends quiz, we said, what was the food that you could eat for the rest of your life? One food.
That's easy.
Really?
Oh, like
can I guess yours?
Yeah.
I know what it would be. I know it would be Korean food.
But you're talking like one specific food. Like one thing.
Yeah. For you, it's either chicken soup or satay.
Yeah.
Can you pick between those two?
I'd have to say satay.
Chicken?
Between the
pork?
two.
Just satay.
Chicken.
Because then you have the
chicken satay.
Oh, chicken satay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is that your favorite?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really love bulgogi, too.
Ah, yeah, you do.
But that can kind of get old. Chicken satay has way more going on. Just really flavorful.
You're
all
right.
the vegetables, Yeah. So,
bulgogi
between satay and soup, I would say satay.
Okay.
Just, the flavor with that is just a little more versatile for me.
Yeah, it is. Mine is lettuce wraps.
Really?
Yes. But Korean barbecue style. Where you have like the different variety of meats.
Yeah.
All the side dishes. But I want like 15 side dishes.
Right. Exactly.
Not just 3 or 4.
That's right.
I want them all.
That's right.
Anyways, that's mine.
Yeah.
So this is kind of in that area of my favorite food.
Yeah.
So, all right, Nick. So, part of the reason that I brought you here today, too, is that I'm still working on my story, and my half-Korean story, which I've had people ask about, which I'm getting there. It's just, it's really not done yet.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm still kind of processing it. And I want to make it just straight to the point and just there. But kind of just talking about, like, us growing up, right? I think that's kind of, like, our experiences thinking about, like, here versus, like, when we were in Korea. I would say definitely 2 different experiences, but kind of one and the same. Right? Just kind of where the cultures were then and where they are now, right? Wouldn't you kind of agree with that?
Definitely a big change from childhood to where we are today. As far as in our lives, in our cultures, the world itself that's evolved. There's definitely some, and in a good way.
Yes,
I would say, right? As far as experiences. It's a lot has changed for sure.
Because I would say that we've probably experienced to where we felt unaccepted for being different, and like very accepted where some people are like, that is so cool, right? I've experienced both. Nowadays it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that you're but back in the day here in America when we were younger, me and Nick were raised in a very small town.
Plural towns.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because it was like, you have your little bigger city that has everything, and then you have like little small towns that kind of surround that city.
Well, I mean for moving a lot.
Oh, for moving.
Yeah.
Because
we did move a lot, which also made it even more difficult.
Yeah, you're right.
Rather than being in one location, having the opportunity to make friends, grow up with people, right? That's what I see what you mean. That's my thought. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right.
I get your point too.
Yeah, because we were still kind of near that one town that we moved away from. Here and there, but yeah, definitely in school. I don't know about you, but for me, I remember mostly in elementary school and then kind of middle school, where we went to that one school. It was like 5th and 6th grade. It was definitely harder for me to make friends. And I remember them making fun of my eyes and and kind of saying like ching ching chong and like things like that, and like pulling their eyes and kind of making fun of me. And I remember a couple girls like telling me to get away from them and that kind of thing. So
right, yeah.
Did you ever experience anything like that when you were in school?
Yeah. I think maybe being a boy, it might have been a little different for me. Because I think maybe being a male, maybe kids are maybe a little more intimidated to make fun of, right? Where you gotta have quite the balls to really say something, especially as a kid.
Wow, yeah.
So I mean, definitely had moments of kids, and it goes back to moving all the time from school to school, right? Because I think for any kid, half Korean, full American, whatever, when you're constantly moving from school to school, for anybody it's difficult to make friends, right?
Yeah.
Because, you're in and out,
Yeah.
You start talking to somebody, next thing you know, you're gone. So I think... So I think there was a lot of similar struggles and complications growing up. But I can definitely say, there was definitely moments in certain schools that you'd have those few kids, of course, always, that were just bullies and just... when you look different, people look at you more. Trying to figure you out, or if they want to say something just because. So definitely.
Yeah.
Had some tough moments as a kid, For
sure.
He
was learning Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And you started Taekwondo when you were how old? Like 3? 4 years old.
4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I bet you, if I were you, I would have went in and just announced that I'm a black belt.
Yeah.
I know Taekwondo.
Right. Yeah.
Come mess with me.
I know, right?
Right.
I mean, it definitely helped. It definitely helped for sure. Yeah, I took Taekwondo when I was 4, and I quit when I was 12.
When you hit your black belt, right?
Yeah. Became a teenager, just kind of
uninterested.
Lost interest. Yeah. Other things started becoming more interesting, and girls, sports, the whole nine. Well, which is one regret I do have in life.
Really?
Is quitting Taekwondo.
Really? You do?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was so good for you, though.
It really was. Because it teaches you a lot of respect.
Discipline.
You were very disciplined. I was so good at it. Naturally, we have uncles. We have 2 uncles that were a 3rd and 5th degree black belts. So it was just in our blood.
Yeah.
I was the youngest student to teach a class.
Oh, that's right.
I
forgot about
made the demo team and traveling and going to different schools and showing different techniques. So
I remember your Taekwondo years.
Yeah.
We'd go watch you. You'd be sparring. You won most of them.
Indie tournament.
You won most of them.
I got beat my first match ever.
Well.
As a yellow belt. Fought a black belt.
Wow. And you didn't win. Come on.
Scared to death. Right? He kicked my butt. And then, but that was a good experience for me because then, I got a tournament under my belt. But then, from that tournament on, I went undefeated.
I remember.
In like 50-some matches.
Wow.
Which is pretty impressive. So, yeah. Definitely one of my highlights in my life.
And
do you guys experiences.
And do you guys know who was his punching bag? Me. I was his sparring partner that didn't want to be a sparring partner.
Yeah. I go watch Karate Kid.
Oh my gosh.
I'd be Aaron. Where you at?
I would hide. We'd watch an action movie. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Karate Kid, Bloodsport, all
Great movie.
Yeah, good movie. But like before the movie was over, I would like start to like sneak away because I knew as soon as he's done watching this fighting movie, he'd be in the mood. Oh man. But it toughened me up.
Yeah. But going back to what you were saying about, you know, life experiences. From where we were kids to adults now, right? Yeah. Big changes, big differences. Oh yeah. You know, in a good way. In a good way.
Definitely.
You know.
Definitely a good thing. And kind of what he's touching on is, you know, even right now here in America, and I know in Korea too, there is this movement of no discrimination, no prejudice, Black Lives Matter, that kind of thing, movement kind of going on here, which leaks into all of the other different races and nationalities and that kind of thing that are here. You know, granted, it's been going on for a while. Right now, it's just very public because, you know, there's a lot of attention drawn to it because of, you know, just how people are handling it and that kind of thing. But I would definitely say that as we became adults and older adults, even older teenagers, I would say that I found people more interested in my differences.
For sure.
You know, and that being unique was actually kind of cool than being just like everyone else. But definitely when I was younger, I wanted to blend in and I didn't want to be different. You know, and I would try to do my makeup and my hair and that kind of thing to look more like a white girl and, you know, color my hair and, you know, but that's from a girl's point of view. But then once I got older, it was definitely more cool that I was unique than
for sure
different, you know.
You know, and as we got older in schools, you know, the first part of our earlier school years and growing up was moving constantly, which you guys know. I mean, it's difficult for any child, you know, to go from school to school, make friends, this and that, yada yada. But yeah, once we kind of got established somewhere, you know, we both were able to start making friends, you know. Yeah. Push our kind of insecurities aside, right? When you start becoming more comfortable with people, you know, in any situation, at school, at home, whether if it's a kid across the street kind of thing. I mean, you know, just ways of how everybody just, you know, you kind of grow up. And so things definitely became more normalized. Yeah. You know, there was light at the end of the tunnel. We could definitely see things in a different perspective. Yeah. So, you know, I think our experiences, I think in a way, I think it's kind of shaped us, right? To be stronger people, to know that, you know, which we understand now, obviously, just people are going to judge, right? It doesn't matter your race, your color, what nationality, where you came from. It's just a matter of accepting who you are as a person, right? And just kind of getting over your self-insecurities and just kind of, right? Yeah.
Wow, Nick.
Taking on the world, right?
I mean, talk about a motivational speech right there. Bravo. Yeah. No, but I agree. And it does take time.
It does.
Right? It takes time to kind of grow comfortable in who you are. Even as a person. Even, I don't care what nationality you are and where you live. Even for my other friends, like just growing comfortable in who you are and finding your identity. I think that's kind of the crisis that we have, right? When you go from teenager to adult and become an adult, and even when you're an adult, that identity crisis. Who am I? Who was I born to be? Like that kind of thing, you know? Yeah. Everyone wants to have something special about them, right? And it's like you're on this journey in life to figure out what that is so that you feel comfortable in who you are, right? But yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, I like that. So then also kind of wanted to talk about in Korea, when we went there as kids versus when we went there as adults, right? I remember And Nick doesn't much remember this. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit ago when I was kind of processing this whole discussion and kind of my story.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of talking about how when we went there when we were kids, I remember a couple of our cousins that didn't want to play with me.
Sure.
And then we had, like, there were neighbor kids that didn't want to play with us. I kind of remember our mom, we didn't go too many places when we were there, too. And maybe it's just because she wanted to go to town by herself. But I remember feeling that, like, that other kids and girls didn't want to play with me. And I remember the girl that I got closest to, which is my cousin, and she lived in Seoul. I remember we went and visited her. And I remember she really was so sweet and kind to me, and like she gave me like gifts and toys, and I remember we'd sit and just chit chat and act like we knew what each other were talking about. I mean, it was like it was an amazing time. That was probably the best time that I had, but I do remember that in a way of to where I know that affected me wanting to learn Korean.
Sure.
Because we weren't too young when we went for the first time. And I still remembered a lot of it because it was just, you know, you're in a whole new culture and a whole new country, so you remember all of it. But I do remember that affecting me, like, you know what, they won't accept me anyways. But I remember feeling that way. So I remember for the longest time, Mom could talk to us in Korean and we would understand her and we would answer in English. I remember doing that when we were young kids. And then our mom wanted to learn Korean, so then we, like, would do both, right? She would talk and we would respond and that kind of thing. But I remember, like, after that, like, I remember, like, I don't know. I don't want it to sound harsh because it's not their fault. Like, I don't hold any of this against anybody. I know it was just the time, right? And when you're not used to seeing different people, you don't know how to react to them, right? So I really have no hard feelings. But just processing back, it's like, you know, I remember that playing a role in me feeling like, you know what, I'll never live there. I'll never be accepted anyways, so why even try?
Right.
And that was when I went through this whole phase of where I really just wanted to be a white girl. What about you?
For me?
Yeah. But all of our uncles, I want to say this first, all of our uncles and all of the older adults treated us like gold. Like, I remember having the best time with one of our mom's cousins, and, like, he took us everywhere, and, like, you know, like, all of the adults treated us like gold.
That was our uncle.
Yeah, our uncles and mom's cousins, like, all the older adults, I think, because we met a lot. Like, they all treated us so well. Like, we didn't experience any, like, different feelings from the adults, you know, or the older people, or... It was the girls my age, but there was a lot of girls. And they probably treated you different because you looked more Asian than I did when we were younger.
Well, and the other thing, you know, boys are more sought after in Korea. Just because you can carry the same last name kind of thing. You know, for me, I mean, I think my experience from back when you were 10 and I was 12 going to Korea the first time, I think it was still a good experience for me. Excuse me. I don't really remember a lot of the cousins trying to not want to be around us kind of thing. I don't really remember the whole trying to push us away kind of thing. I remember we'd always be playing with them, trying to play with them. You know, I remember going over to Mom's aunt's house, playing with cousins. They cook for us, this and that. You know, my biggest thing as far as experience from then and from when I went 4 years ago was the fact of the age between when I was 12 years old till 4 years ago. You know, I think the experience for me was different in a way that I could appreciate things differently, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, I mean, we still were, everybody just, you know, you remember we'd be leaving and people were like throwing money almost at us. You remember that? You know, kind of thing. And to where to where a few years ago, I mean, it was going to restaurants and it would be servers there asking, is he Is he American? Right? Because they look for that more now, right? Which is obviously a complete kind of different change in that, to where it's more sought after, right?
Yeah.
Being half Korean, half American. When used to they would frown on that, now it's such a big deal to where it's more desired, so.
Yes.
So, my biggest thing, and experience-wise from then till now, was just the fact of being able to appreciate the trip itself, your surroundings, the culture, everything around, people, food.
Yes.
Our history, our background. There was just so many things that I learned about our family that I could have cared less about back then as a child, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which our last name, our mom's last name, our family's last name is Kim, which is a lot of people's last names. But we do come from a royal family. And you learned about that when you went. I haven't had a chance to see all that yet. Like this big monument that's like our family's history and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I haven't yet got to see that, but you did. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was actually a very cool experience.
Yeah. Was that in Gwangju?
That was not.
Okay. I was asking Mom about it.
I can't remember what city that was in. It was outside of the city we stayed in, where our uncle was at the time. Okay. He's moved since, but it was like on the outer skirts of the city there. Yeah.
Because our family lives in Gwangju. That's where my mom is from. She's from like the country of Gwangju, because she, but now they all live in Gwangju. So.
Yeah. So.
Very cool. But no, I would have to agree. I remember when I went the first time as an adult, and it was such a different experience. Granted, we weren't in the country like we were before when we were kids, but like, once we were in the city and kind of around, like, just really taking in the city itself was pretty cool. But how built up it is, and, like the economy change, was significant. You could tell, right? And the culture, but also mainly was, I'm a taller woman in Korea, which is weird. I mean, I'm not short here. I'm not a short woman, but I'm not like a tall
You're average
woman.
Here.
I'm average here, because I am almost 5'5", which I don't know what that is in centimeters. I think I'm like 168 centimeters. I could be wrong. Anyway, I'll put that in. Yeah. So, but, in Korea, like, oh my goodness, I'd walk down the street, I would board a bus, I would be eating at a restaurant, like anywhere. And you really feel people watching you. Like, really. Like, they're not discreet about staring or watching. I don't want to say stare, because really it's curiosity. And I don't, and it just took me time to get used to it. And I really don't think I got used to it, because it was just a whole new experience.
Right.
Just more than what I experienced here.
Sure.
People here will ask you, right? I even have strangers ask me questions, but in Korea they don't ask.
Like, what nationality are you?
But like in Korea they just kind of, in their mind, I think, are just trying to, figure you out. Or they just know. And they're just trying to look at your features to see, like, how Korean do you look, or how American do you look, or, all those beauty standards. How big are your eyes? What's your face shaped like? How's your nose? I don't know, but how tall are you? So when I would walk around, that was definitely something that was unique when I was there. Was a lot of people watched me, mainly in Gwangju. So Gwangju is a city; it's a bigger city. But when I went to Seoul, I feel like I blended in a lot. Like when we would go and visit people in Seoul. But when it was like Gwangju, I definitely felt like there's not a lot of diversity there. So when we were in Gwangju, I feel like that's kind of where I felt a lot of people watching. I don't know how else to say.
And not in a bad way.
No,
right?
Curiosity.
Because, like, for me, it was
pure curiosity.
Going out with cousins. So, it was it was one of my greatest experiences in my last trip. When we went to Korea, we both went on different times.
Yeah. It'd be so fun to go together.
When I went, we basically hung out in Gwangju for the most part. Our uncle owned a condo. He stayed in the top building of the condo, which is they call it the penthouse, basically.
Yeah, he owns it, I think.
Which he sold it now. But you know, because Korean culture's there is something I learned in my last trip there is like, you know, families, they don't really get together like we do here, right? Which was surprising to me. Like, I did a lot of hanging out. We got a lot of cousins that are females. Mid-20s at the time, going on their 30s now. But, like, so for me, it was trying to gain and have as much of an experience as I could, right?
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of, and obviously I can't speak Korean. It's a difficult language to learn. We've been in America all our life, so never had the desire to try to learn.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of using Google Translate, which was something I figured out with my cousins. And then we literally started Google translating to each other, showing each other our phone screens. But it got to the point to where we were hanging out almost every day, you know. And they come pick me up in a taxi. They take me out to the town at night. We go to bars and restaurants. And, you know, it was such an amazing experience because I could really see the culture, the city life culture, the more traditional way that they live also. But, you know, something that was very surprising to me was something that our uncle had made a comment to our mom at the time was he had made the comment to her and said that, you know, this is pretty surprising that the cousins have come over so much. To me, it blew my mind because here in America, with our family we got here, my wife's side, in-laws, we get together all the time throughout the years. Us, even birthdays, it's like a common thing. You guys know here in America. But it was a big shocker to me to hear that they were so surprised that how many times the cousins came over. Right? Because he had made the comment that they might get together on New Year's. And this is family. So, like, you know. So, for me, Korean culture-wise, to me, it's still, that was a big kind of surprise to me to kind of understand that side. And, you know, when we're so used to get-togethers and, you know.
Every holiday.
Right. You know.
Even if it's not a big holiday, we're finding excuses to get together, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so there's just things that are, it's very interesting, you know, and maybe hard to understand, too.
Well, and it makes me wonder, too, like, is it because of the respect thing? I've always been curious about this.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that has anything, I don't know.
I think because, like, here, you know, like, we can talk normal to people older than us and adults, right? Yes, you're older than me. And I know there's a level of respect in Korea that I would have to have for you, right? But yet me and you talk very naturally and about everything. And, you know, I think here even, like, me and my niece Kiera, right? Like, she doesn't have to have a certain level of respect for me. She does. Granted, Nick, don't worry. But I mean, like, the way that it is in Korea is so different than here. So it makes me wonder, like, you know, does that affect things?
Yeah.
And get-togethers, and, you know, if you can't loosen up around people or be yourself, I don't know. Maybe that sounds crazy, but I guess I've always wondered if that does play a role in, like, just how close, you know, older people, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles are to, you know, daughters, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, that kind of thing, because of that barrier that's kind of kept and laying, and you know what I mean? Do you feel me? Am I making sense? Okay. because your kids can come over here and totally be themselves, right? And there's no worry, you know, and like same for my kids, or you know, I don't know, but it was just a thought I've had.
You wonder.
You know? We've never lived there, so we don't fully know things.
Exactly.
Right? Like, we have ideas of things and how they are.
And from our experiences.
Yeah, very limited experiences, right? But just living there would be so different than actually, you know, just what we've had. So I think there's certain things that we just don't know what could have, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so... But yeah, definitely the growing culture, just talking about like the growing like acceptance of what Koreans call hunyols, right? Like our half mixed race, half Koreans, that kind of thing, which I am so glad of. And I definitely also, you sound like you've experienced on your second trip. I definitely felt like my cousins were, and it made me feel so good. And I want them to know that too, if they're going to, you know, I know they're going to watch this. So, you know, they were proud of me. You know, I remember like, we were driving somewhere, and I remember one of my little cousins, her name's Younga, and she saw a couple of her school friends walking by, and she literally, like, rolled the window down, and, like, she was like, oh, you know, and I remember her telling them, like, this is my cousin from America, you know, and she speaks good English, so she could tell me what she was talking about. But I remember her telling them, like, oh, this is my, like, but just to see her face, like, it really made my day. And I remember Mom even saying, like, that made her day, because she's been talking about me coming and her American cousin, that kind of thing. But then for them to actually see me was something different, and how she wanted me to go to her school one day and, like, pick her up. And I totally would have. I don't remember why I didn't. But... just that kind of thing, like you know, they were proud of us, which made me feel amazing, you know, and a different feeling than I had, I think, the first time. But granted, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm a girl too, and I think I didn't process that piece that you did, so that makes sense.
So it makes it a little different.
Absolutely,
you know?
I agree, but definitely feeling different and feeling like people's curiosity was more just them curious in what someone would look like being half Korean, not just feeling judged on. And even here, I know people's curiosity is so. Even that kind of leads into my next kind of topic that we're gonna talk about. Is kind of like those common questions that we get. Right, this is gonna be fun because we get a lot. I get a lot. Do you get a lot?
Here and there. Not like it was, you know, 15 years ago.
Okay.
Right.
I guess it would depend on what you do for a living, too.
Yeah. The kind of people you run into.
Yes.
The environment you're in.
Yes.
The kind of people that are around, right.
Yeah.
You know.
Because I've always worked in a job where I've had to meet new people all the time.
Yeah.
So I bet that's why.
Yeah.
As a server... Yep. And then as a therapist.
Yeah, where for me, it's...
I
own my own business, so it's, you know, I meet my client months in advance, look at what they need done, and then we're in their house doing our thing, and then it's maybe, if they're curious enough, they might ask, excuse me, what nationality are you?
Is that how they asked you?
No.
How do they ask? This is what I'm getting at. How do people ask you?
So what nationality are you, Nick, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay.
Right? It'll kind of be like that. Very respectful. It's, you know, and definitely can tell they're just completely curious.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, I've had a lot of experience where people think I'm Mexican. Right?
Me too.
You know, like me and the wife going on our honeymoon to Cancun, Mexico, and
whoop, whoop.
People coming up to me speaking Spanish, and I'm like, that's no Espanol English, right?
No Espanol!
And then throwing people for a loop. Because I come up to them looking Mexican, and I'm speaking perfect English.
With no Mexican
right? Accent. And then they're really thrown off, like, what's going on here? You know? And then you'll get asked right there on that spot. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know.
And the way that you pronounce Spanish words, I bet really throws them off.
Yeah.
You know, you say tortilla.
Right.
How do you say it?
Tortilla. As a funny way to say, yes, I'll say tortilla.
You would say tortilla.
Tortilla.
Oh, so I bet you're really throwing away. Can I get some more tortillas, please?
Yes. Just say chips.
Chips.
You know.
Oh my goodness.
You know, but that's been more of. I think people get confused sometimes. They just.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
I
just
agree.
because we can look kind of, you know.
Unique.
Just unique. Yeah, that's a perfect word for it, right?
Dark
just
hair,
unique.
dark eyes. I have more curvy features. You know, Nick has kind of, you kind of have that you really have an Asian body. Like, he is totally built like a Korean man. Mm-hmm. Like, right, you can really build up here, up top, but yet you're pretty thin down here.
Mm-hmm. A little more broader than your average Korean man.
Yes.
But
I agree. You know, you have very broad shoulders.
More Americanized, but yes, I agree with what you're saying, for sure.
You know, for me, I've had people say, so for me, like, I always have to meet new people all the time. Like, right, so I think I would probably get the question more than you. Which, anyway, so it's always like, what are you? Mm-hmm. I've had that question. Mm-hmm. Where are you from? But I know where they're going. I immediately know. As soon as they say what or where, like, I know where it's going because I've heard it many times, right? And honestly, now I have fun with it. Like, now it's just like, I might as well just have fun with this situation. And I'll kind of take people down a rabbit hole. See if they give up. Right. You know, so like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from this small town outside the city, you know. And they're like, no, like, where are you from?
Right.
And I'm like, well, I guess I was born in Kansas, Fort Riley, Kansas. Mm-hmm. You know, I was born on an army base. So like, well, where's your parents from? Right? Like, they're digging, but I'm just like playing I'm just trying to play a game.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'll just say, okay, my mom is Korean, my dad is white American. Mm-hmm. I am half Korean. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then sometimes people even say, you don't look Korean. You don't look half Korean. And then they'll sit and try to think about what they think I look more like, which really boggles me. I think that's when I'm like, okay, well, like, you look more Hispanic or, Latin or I would have guessed you. They always want to tell me what they would have guessed me, or if I don't look Korean enough for them, depending on my hair or whatever, like, they'll kind of tell me like what they think I look like, which is hilarious. I'm like, okay. Or they'll come up with like the only Korean person they know of, and like, oh, you look like Joanna Gaines.
Oh, sure.
You look like Lucy Liu.
Yeah.
You look like, I see it now, so.
Yeah.
It's always funny. I'm more curvy than the average Korean girl, right? I don't have straight features. I have some hips, so people are thrown off by my body. Yeah. How tall I am, and then my body shape. So some people, they'll even talk about that, which is funny.
Yeah. My most popular comparison was Brandon Lee. Bruce Lee's son.
Hey, that's not bad.
Right.
He was a good-looking guy. Poor guy.
Yeah, I know. I love that last movie he made, Rapid Fire. It was such a good movie.
Yes.
But yeah, that was probably my most common comparison.
He definitely had more. He did not look...
Because he wasn't...
Asian.
Because obviously, he has Asian parents and like... But he could almost be like us in the way he looked. Yeah. Because he almost could like kind of look a little American.
Yeah.
But like...
Yeah. Because I think for us as Korean or half Koreans, like, we have double eyelids. So I think that if you don't have a double eyelid and you're mixed, people can immediately guess Asian feature, right? But for us, because we have the double eyelid and wider eyes and, Korean or Asian is hardly ever what people guess. Or they'll say, they'll call me Oriental looking. Which Oriental is such a funny word. It's like...
Because it sounds so traditional, doesn't it? Yeah.
They'll say, I see you're Oriental. You have Oriental features. Are you half Asian? Some people will even guess that, but... Yeah. Anyway, that's very interesting. Yeah. I think those are probably the most common questions I get here. Oh, what are other common questions people ask you, like, when they find out you're half Korean? Do you ever get, like, do you eat dog?
That's definitely been asked before in my life. Yeah, if they eat dog in Korea. Which I personally have never ate dog.
Me either.
My 2 experiences in Korea, I've never seen them eat dog.
Mm-hmm. Me either.
So if I had to guess and say if they do or don't, my guess is I don't think they do. I heard they do.
Yeah, back in the day.
When they were
very poor.
Right. And maybe they still do in poor, in towns where people are still poor and in poverty. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But definitely, that was something that was asked. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you eat dog?
Are you good at math? Which you can answer yes. I cannot.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at math.
Okay. So you are the Korean stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
Right.
Okay, I am not good at math. All right, I still use my fingers to count. I'm not good at math. Okay?
Right.
I was always good at biology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, not good at math. Oh, and then how did your parents meet?
Hold on, to go back to your last one.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I think someone would probably get this joke, but probably another one is not necessarily pointed towards me, but because Asian drivers can be such terrible drivers. And I have actually learned that driving in America, okay? I'm a pretty good driver, I will say. I will vouch for myself. But
okay. I am too.
That has been another funny question, right? Is because Asian drivers...
I have never heard that.
Can that always be the best drivers? For whatever reason. I have no idea why. But I've always thought that was the funniest thing, because it's actually when there's been moments in driving experiences, right, where somebody's not paying attention, or they run a stop sign or whatever it is, or they're in the wrong lane. There's been a few of those times where it's had to been an Asian driver as you're passing by,
It's probably because if they just came here, they don't drive much there. You think?
Well, a lot of people do drive there.
Right.
If you're in the city.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But if they live in the city, normally they just take the bus.
Well, there's a lot of vehicles on the road.
I agree.
Because it is so congested in those cities.
Man, it is.
A lot of drivers. But anyway, that was one of the funnier.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's like a stereotype. Yeah. Asian drivers are terrible drivers.
He's like, I've noticed here and there.
Right.
I've never heard
that. Which I can vouch and say that.
Interesting, though.
But yeah.
Do you need more food?
I always thought that was funny. I'm good for now.
Okay.
I'm
good. Okay. Asian drivers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Nick is a good driver now.
Mm-hmm.
Now.
For a long time.
Okay. When he was learning how to drive, that's a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like for most.
Yeah. So, we won't go there, but we'll just leave that in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was kind of thinking, how did your parents meet, right? I think there's always that assumption, was it in the Army?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which it was.
Yep. It was. It was, which, most people are, and I think that's kind of even a negative thought for some people. Even for Koreans.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that our dad was an Army man.
Right.
Because, at the time, I think Americans kind of didn't want them to bring Asian women home, and I think even the Korean people didn't want the American men taking their Korean women.
Right.
So I know that was kind of a negative, and even the view that I think Koreans can have on Army men, because I've even seen it in some Korean dramas and movies where the Korean woman that went home to America and like it always shows them being, you know, the guy being drunk and abusive.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I know it's a negative kind of thought and everything, but, you know. Anyway, yeah. I wish it wasn't like that, but I guess that must have been very common, so then it just became a stereotype that was, I don't know, I guess. I wasn't around then, I don't remember much, but, you know. I know that's kind of a can be a negative thing, you know, so.
Yeah.
But I guess I can understand why. And then I was kind of thinking about questions too, things that we get asked from Koreans. Can you eat spicy food? This is the funny thing. So when we're in Korea, when I go to Korea, and we're getting ready to eat. Okay, this is funny. And as soon as I pick up chopsticks.
Right.
Okay, are you with me?
Uh-huh.
It's like an amazing thing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you eat with chopsticks. Oh. And then they watch you eat with chopsticks. Okay? And then it's like they're almost like evaluating how you eat with chopsticks. Like, oh, they eat spicy food. Oh, they eat Korean food so well. Oh, like my mom will be telling us, like, you know, oh, they're so amazed. Because you just feel them like, oh, you know, and you're just like, what is happening? I'm just eating, you know? But then they're so amazed by how we're eating, how well we eat the spicy food, how well we use chopsticks, so on and so forth. But for us, it's like, you know, we have a Korean mom who bought chopsticks and fed us Korean food. And, you know, there's Korean stores everywhere. And Asian marts everywhere.
There is.
You know, so we have access
to... Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? You know, we have kimchi, you know, anyway, but you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Because my last Korean trip, the younger brother of her mom, one of her cousin's parents took us out to a restaurant they wanted us to try. A little hole-in-the-place wall. But, man, it was so good. But we're sitting there eating. All of us are at the table that's on the ground. We're all sitting on our little pads. And my uncle, out of the blue, challenges me to see if I could pick up, they're like little beans. They look like little beans with chopsticks. So I kind of chuckled to myself, like thinking, if they only knew.
Of course I can.
Right. Okay. Right. And it was a funny, good moment.
Yeah.
Right, because I just picked the chopsticks up and picked the bean up, ate it. The whole table started laughing. You know, Uncle's face got a little red because he realized, okay, he can use chopsticks. And see, the interesting thing in Korea is that, and this is something I learned on our last trip, was that for men. So men, I guess, are to become to be considered manly, I guess, because I guess not all men in Korea can use chopsticks. Which is interesting to me, but I guess you're more manly, obviously, if you can use chopsticks. So it's actually a big deal in Korea for men to be able to use chopsticks, which is something I just I picked up and I learned on the last trip. You know, I had no idea. I thought it was just a funny ha-ha thing, but it was actually a bigger deal than I would have imagined, right? But yeah, apparently for guys in Korea, it's a big deal if you can use chopsticks because you're considered more of a man that uses chopsticks versus a fork and spoon. So that was something that was pretty interesting.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But
I passed the test.
Right, he's manly. I mean, to show off those chopstick muscles.
Right, yeah, right.
Right, look, watch these muscles right here. You see that one?
Right.
Are you like bench pressing chopsticks? Like
yes. Right. Taking training classes. Right. Putting the rubber bands.
But I have noticed too, like, so Desiree really tries. She tries. But I noticed, like, there is an amount of strength. And I noticed this little muscle right here on me is very, like, when I'm using chopsticks, I don't know if this is crazy to think of. Probably going to get edited out. But, like, right here, look at that muscle.
Uh-huh.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that, like, here and there. Like, this little muscle right here is very, and, okay, being a hand therapist, like, it's very built up on people that use, well, you work with your hands, but on people that use chopsticks, because that, you really got to build that up to really grip and hold. You know what I mean?
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hand strength.
Just hand strength.
But yeah, for sure.
So to get that bean.
You got to be very precise.
Yeah.
Because it was in a wet kind of base too, so there were slippery beans.
Yeah.
So I could totally see why he tested me.
With that specific
thing, right? Because they can be very difficult to pick up if you're not experienced.
Yeah.
So it was a funny ha-ha, but felt good. I was like, that's right. Let
me flex my chopstick
but I can still use them.
Right? Goodness. Yeah. I enjoy using chopsticks. It's so much easier. I think people think it's complicated.
For this kind of setup, for sure.
I could not imagine eating this with a fork.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even ramen, like, I prefer using chopsticks.
Yeah. I can still use a fork.
Yeah, I mean, spaghetti style.
Yeah, just like spaghetti. Oh yeah.
Hey,
the American ways you learn to eat Korean food with, right?
Yeah.
A fork for ramen that you eat spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little things like that.
And he is like your average Korean guy where he really has to have ramen, once or twice a week for you?
At least once.
At least once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just something you grew up as a kid eating, you just can't get away from.
Because I know that you have your tradition where you have your ramen on the weekends.
That's right. Now our kids are addicted to it.
I know.
And we'll pass on and keep that tradition going.
Me and Kira had some ramen here one day, and you could tell, like, she really loves ramen.
Yeah.
Have you ever, like, dealt with any kind of prejudice or discrimination?
Honestly, I can't really say that I have, just because, I'd have to go back to our childhood days. It's just, I think as far as being different, being half Korean, half American, I think that was probably the toughest. Mm. And not necessarily that it was so difficult, but I think the moving, this and that, I think that's what also made the situation more difficult for us as a kid, right? Growing up. But once I got past the childhood phase, going into high school, from childhood to high school, once we were kind of established in one system, could make friends actually, it was like I kind of became one of the more popular kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I think confidence-wise, for everything else that I did that followed, for me, basically I accepted who I was as a person. I didn't care what the outside people think, right? Because, like I said earlier, people are going to judge. Unfortunately, there's racist people out there. And that's always going to be like that. But I never had difficulties, with as far as participating in whatever it is I wanted to do in life, getting a job, kind of thing. So honestly, I can't really say that I had any moment in my life where I felt totally discriminated, because of the way I looked.
Other than leaving Mexico? That was probably more racial profiling, right?
Yeah, that was that was definitely a moment. It was interesting. It was it was a moment that was like, wow, right? Like, really? You know, me and the wife looking at each other like, did this really just happen? So, I mean, yeah, I guess I can go back to the honeymoon moment when we went to Mexico. I'm trying to think if we were going there or if we were leaving. I think we were going there. And we were at the border right before we were going into Mexico, going up to the officers, and then you're getting checked in. They're checking all your passports and everything. And the guy looked at my passport, kind of looked at me, and then he sat there for a second, and he's like, well, what's your occupation? What do you do for a living, right? And I said, well, I do construction. He said, okay, well, and then he asked, well, can I feel your hands? And me and the wife looked at each other like...
Feel your hands?
That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
But he's definitely questioning if that's what I do as far as for an occupation. So I literally had to reach my hand out, and the guy literally felt for calluses on my hands.
Which you have plenty.
Which I did have. Because, you know, I wasn't lying about anything. And so after he felt my hands, anyways, he said, okay, well, you're good. You guys have fun. Enjoy your trip, you know. And so, yeah, looking back at that moment, I guess, yeah, you know, if there was one moment. Didn't they pull you aside
on the way back or something? You said on the way back you got pulled aside like every stop, right?
I don't think it was for that, though.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
They've been married a long time.
We have.
And Desiree has the memory. Nick does not.
Yeah.
That's why I was surprised she won the best friends quiz, or that I won the best friends quiz.
Right.
Because her memory is like, bing! I'm like you. My memory can fail me.
I think maybe what Desiree meant by getting questioned is just, I don't know. Because they would ask us, and they were adamant about.
Oh, like.
Where are you going? Because I think I was still on the way going there, right? It was like.
Yeah. You saw people going.
It would seem like a few more questions were asked.
Yeah.
Compared to others, maybe. I think that's more what Desiree meant by that.
Yeah.
I don't. Because, you know, that was the biggest kind of moment of like, what the heck just happened, right?
Right.
You know, kind of thing. But again, just kind of brushed it off the shoulders, and, you know, we had one of the best vacations of our life. So, I mean, you know, at that point in my life, you know, like Aaron said, you kind of get to a point you're used to people looking at you. You're used to people to where you almost think, what are they thinking of? But you know what? It doesn't matter because I don't care what you think. I am who I am. I've accepted myself. You know, if you've got a problem with me, that's your problem, not mine. So, I mean, you know, it's just kind of one of those moments. But yeah, I mean, I guess that was really the only, you know, kind of like discriminative moment of like,
your life.
Of like, wow, did that just really happen? It did. Huh. You know?
Yeah.
So.
And I would agree. I think that nowadays, I am not offended by anything people ask me or say to me, or even when people look at me, or because I see like in their mind and on their face, it's like you just see a question mark. Like really, genuinely, they're curious.
90% of the time, yes, I would.
You know, like
agree,
genuinely, I think most people are just curious. I look different than everyone else. And I think because of our mixture, we don't look like, you know, I think if someone is half black, half white, like you can tell, right? Like you can just kind of tell, you know, in some of their features. Or like, you know, if someone's half Mexican, half white, you can just tell, you know, like, or they look more like one than the other, or they just don't look as Mexican, Hispanic, right? But I think for us, our mixture is unique. Right, and it's not as common. It's not like, and I think, you know, it is more of a curiosity because it can't be distinct just by looking here in America, I'd say. And then I do know that when we go to Korea, like, we just look different than everyone else, right? And like, I'm taller. he's taller.
Yep.
A taller man, you know, so even that, my tallness in itself, I can tell gets people's attention, especially women, you know, because I feel like I'm towering over them, or like, mainly when I'm in Gwangju, you know, or like the smaller towns, but yeah, just that in itself, you know, I just feel the curiosity, but really I don't get offended. I honestly wish people would just come and talk to me and ask me about it. You know, like, I don't mind having a conversation about my race. Like, it's something I've had a conversation about all my life. And I find it interesting, and I love... Who doesn't like talking about themselves, right?
Sure.
No, right. But, like, you know, I honestly don't mind questions. I don't mind comments. I don't mind, you know, I guess sometimes... I know what people are kind of questioning. I think that's something, too, that Desiree even brought up, is that me and you are definitely more self-aware, and we're more aware of people around us than the average person.
Sure.
Because we're used to different reactions from people all of our life, right? Mm-hmm. We're used to people being curious about us.
There you go.
And that's something that we've, you know, so it's not a bad thing, not a negative thing.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. So you get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. And I honestly, like, I think nowadays, and I know you are too, but I'm definitely more proud of being unique and different. I'm proud of my the Korean culture, and I'm proud of being, you know, half Korean. I'm proud of being half American.
Yeah.
I feel I'm blessed to be a part of two cultures and to be able to experience and know about two cultures, and, you know, I think it's a benefit.
Yeah.
It's a benefit.
Yeah.
It's a perk. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I can agree.
Yeah.
Because we're not like,
Yeah.
Because being unique, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, and being able to have Korean food and
one word, right?
American food and
exactly.
Right, that's a huge perk.
That's right. The food alone
is a perk.
Yeah.
Being able to travel to another country and have family, that's a perk.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's definitely more perks than there are negatives.
I agree.
I love it.
I would agree.
I love it. There's, you know, nowadays as I'm an adult and I'm confident in who I am, I don't have any negatives than I would have when I was a young, insecure girl.
Exactly.
Teenager, you know.
Because, I mean, that's, you know, right.
But you were always very popular, so I think you didn't struggle with it as much. Because girls were always attracted to that dark hair, dark eyed, dark skinned guy, right? And I think...
So I kind of took advantage of it.
He did.
If that makes sense.
He did. I learned from him, okay? I learned from him.
Right.
You know, and Nick had all the popular friends who treated me like a younger sister. I was everyone's little sister, I felt. So I learned a lot. And it helped me really learn about guys, which, anyway. But I think, too, because you were my brother, I don't know if it maybe intimidated other guys, or I don't know. I really didn't date much in school. Because I was a popular person, but not a popular, like, looking girl, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
It was more girls in your grade or in my grade that wanted to get close to Nick and his friends. That would be my friends.
I know.
But I was so like this with girls. I didn't desire to have girlfriends because of that.
You feel like they want to come over.
Yeah. Right? Yes.
I remember you saying that.
So I had more guy friends than I had girlfriends. Mm-hmm. I'm more comfortable around guys than I am girls.
Right. Yeah.
But I always kept like a
Right.
But anyways, yeah. Nick's looks got him the girls.
Yeah.
They liked his difference, his being different.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, it's just because I can step back now and look and just see as that, at the end of the day, though, if you're mixed, you're full American, the bottom. I think I probably even said something similar to this earlier. It's just the fact that, I think everybody's going to have their struggles, right?
Absolutely.
Whether if it's because you think that people judge you because of the way you look, or if it's because of the way you eat, because of what you wear, whatever it is. I mean,
even
it's
having
just
glasses.
Yeah, we're wearing glasses.
Sometimes.
End of the day, it's just we all have to make our experience to be how we want it to be and just make the best of it, right? Mm-hmm. And accept who you are as a person, mm-hmm. No matter what you look like, and just kind of, right? Mm. You know, for me, I think I'm a very strong-minded person, so like I can think to stay strong. I was always, from Mom, it was, well, you're the oldest, you're the boy, so you got to take care of us, and you got to be strong, right? And this and that. And so I kind of just grew into this mentality of just being tough and staying strong. And you know, sometimes it can be a bad thing because you can have feelings sometimes and emotions that you can't necessarily know how to express. Because you try to stay strong-willed and minded, and you don't want people to see you as vulnerable and weak and whatever it is, right? And so because of that, I mean, it in a positive way, I think it, you know, it helped a lot, just because, right, you know, because again, I can block out people, you know, opinions.
Yeah, he does.
You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be a bad thing, but a good thing as well, right? You know? So
yeah, like, if you're going after what you want, yeah.
That's right. So it's just kind of one of those things. You just gotta. I think it just falls with everybody. It just, you know, I think that's just how life is. Is you just gotta. Yeah. You gotta kind of take life by the horns and just run with it, you know, and don't look back.
I agree. Because our story is really not that unique. We are not the only ones. We're not the only ones that have had obstacles in our lives and, you know, dealt with questions or, you know, whatever. Like, we're not the only ones, right?
I mean, exactly. Because I can see there's Americans in this kind that look like every other American that can have the same kind of experience, have the same kind of struggles. Yeah. It's like people judge them. Yeah. And that's why I try to make that point. It's just because you just like us, like you, them, you just have to accept your situation, who you are, you know, and what do you want to become, and just kind of just take that and roll with it.
Well, I hope you guys feel encouraged, because I sure do. I mean, that was some motivating talk right there. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. You know, and I'm glad you kind of pointed that out, because that's absolutely true. I feel that way, definitely. You know. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So, all right. Well, that is the end of our mukbang. We have a couple more things to do, and I know we have a limited time to do it because this man here works, you know, so he's got stuff to do. So we're going to close this up, and then we're going to get to our 7-second challenge. So thank you guys so much for watching. All right, Nick, this is how we close. You got to go peace out, and then bye.